Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about this Nintendo Direct that's coming this February. Now, this Direct in February has yet to have been officially confirmed, but it is widely expected. And this presentation, I believe, is going to be very telling for Nintendo's overall intentions moving forward. I think it's going to help us give us a much better understanding of what to expect in the bigger April Nintendo Direct that is about Switch 2. That presentation has already been confirmed, and I think it's going to be the biggest Direct of all time. But before that, there are going to be other Nintendo presentations, such as a Pokemon Presents at the end of February, and very likely a Direct this February. And this particular Direct this February, there's a lot of question marks on how exactly it's going to go down. Is it going to be a partner showcase, a big general, something in between? And what kind of announcements will be there, and what might that suggest about the Switch 2 Direct this April? That's what I want to get into today. But before going forward, let me take this moment to point out that I am aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 comes out. So if you find yourself enjoying my content, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell. So this upcoming February Nintendo Direct has not been confirmed yet, and there is always the possibility that there won't be a Direct in February. But historically speaking, there pretty much always is some kind of Direct in February. There has been some kind of February Direct literally every year of the Switch, going all the way back to 2019. In 2018, there was not a February Direct, but instead, there is a Direct Mini in January and a big general in March. Even in the pandemic year of 2020, we had the Animal Crossing Direct. And last year, while the Switch is clearly in a wind-down period, we still got a partner showcase. So at the very least, there is a decent chance we're going to get a partner showcase in the month of February, but potentially more. Now, journalist PH Brazil has talked about there being a Direct in February multiple times over the last few months. So if you don't want to believe the historical record, there is this journalist with a pretty good track record of reporting on Directs happening for particular times. So it seems pretty likely that there will be a Direct in February. And no, it's probably not going to be about Switch 2, because we're already going to get our Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd. That's when Nintendo is going to open the floodgates truly, and everything will come out about Switch 2. And that's the big presentation we're all anticipating, but there are still some things to be excited about regarding Switch 1 still. Nintendo, very likely, is not going to just completely forget about Switch 1, but instead is going to support Switch 1 for a few more years as we transition over to Switch 2. And so for that reason, there still need to be announcements on Switch 1, and not just from third parties, but also first party, Nintendo themselves. What kinds of other games does Nintendo have in mind for Switch 1? We may learn about that in this February presentation. Now, there are a few different rumors that have been circulating from credible sources, like Nate the Hate has suggested Kirby Planet Robobot, and PH Brazil has suggested that there is going to be one more big Nintendo title that is coming from a beloved kind of niche series. I've personally speculated that this is the Fire Emblem remake, Genealogy of the Holy War, but it's possible it's something else. Some have considered the possibility that it might be the next 2D Metroid, because Metroid Dread came out in 2021, made by Mercury Steam, and the prior 2D Metroid came out on 3DS in 2017. So if we're looking at patterns here, then 2025 would be 4 years after Dread. Maybe there's another 2D Metroid game that's ready, and perhaps they want to announce that for Switch 1 early on in the year. That is a possibility, I suppose, but I think more likely they're going to save 2D Metroid for a little bit later down the road because, well, Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this year, so I think the Metroid Prime series should be the focus this year, and you can sit on 2D Metroid even if it's done for a later time. And I would say there's a pretty good chance that we won't even see 2D Metroid on Switch 1 anymore, it's going to come out for Switch 2. But honing in on this Metroid Prime 4 part of the equation, this is one of the things I'm sort of eager to see from the February Nintendo Direct. Because if we don't see Metroid Prime 4 at all in this month of February, I think that's going to be very telling of what to expect for the April Nintendo Direct that'll be about Switch 2. It'll be, in a way, almost kind of like confirmation that Prime 4 is going to be in the Switch 2 Direct, and also, by extension, a cross-gen title. Now, of course, there won't actually be confirmation. There will always be the small possibility that Nintendo's just waiting even longer to tell us more about Prime 4, but I'm already fairly confident that Prime 4 is going to be a cross-generation title, and if we don't see it at all in this month of February, then I would say those chances go from like 90 to 95 to basically like 99% certain that Prime 4 is a cross-gen title. And Prime 4 could be a cross-gen title and still show up in a February Direct. It has been speculated that maybe we'll see an announcement of a Metroid Prime 2 and even 3 remaster, maybe a shadow drop of one or both of them for the month of February, because we don't have any Nintendo published titles for February, and these could happen in a similar fashion to how they handled Prime 1 Remastered, how it was shadow dropped in a February Direct a couple years back. And when they do this, they could also make mention of Prime 4, either A, show us a little teaser, or simply say, hey, there will be more details on Prime 4 in the Switch 2 Direct. That is a possibility. Or maybe, if this is a more bigger general Direct, then Prime 4 might just have its next big trailer. And maybe they mention a Switch 2 version, or maybe they don't. Either way, it could happen. And so February is going to tell us a lot about Nintendo's plans regarding Metroid Prime 4, I would say. But honing in on this talking point of what kind of Direct we could be looking at here, I've personally been thinking maybe we get a partner showcase. But if it's a partner showcase, seeing things like Kirby Planet Robobot, Fire Emblem Remake, Metroid Prime 2, if we were to be getting a partner showcase that's focusing on a Direct about Nintendo's partners, in other words, not Nintendo published titles for the most part, odds are we won't be seeing most of these titles. Possibly one if they're being made by one of Nintendo's partners, but not too many of them, if at all. And so that would then indicate that maybe we get something like a Twitter Direct where Nintendo just makes announcements for their own first-party offerings on social media. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition hasn't been a part of any sort of Direct yet. That was just announced on Twitter a few months ago, and we've gotten updates on it since. So they may continue to tell us about Xenoblade Chronicles X simply through Twitter, and they'll announce a few other games to come out throughout the first half of the year in a similar way. Regardless, I'm expecting some first-party Nintendo announcements soon, because we don't have anything for February, and while we do have Xenoblade X for March, after that, April, there's nothing, May, there's nothing, June, there's nothing, and beyond. Yes, Prime 4 Beyond and Legend ZA are slated for this year, but we don't know exactly where they are going to fit in. It's been speculated that both will be cross-generation titles, and Nintendo may be waiting until the floodgates for Switch 2 open up to start talking more about these games. Now, we are expecting a Pokemon Presents at the end of February, as there always is one for Pokemon Day, and that's probably where we'll get some actual footage for Legend ZA. And I mention it in the context of it having some sort of version on Switch 2, because recently, from the Terra Leaker, we've learned that there might actually be some evidence of a Switch 2 version for Legend ZA. But either way, we'll probably learn about Legend ZA by the end of the month, but the main point I'm trying to make here is that we don't know about anything else really. Nintendo needs to start saying things about their Switch 1 lineup if there is going to be a Switch 1 lineup. And I expect there will be, but to what extent? Will Nintendo's support for Switch 1 truly be starting to wane? In 2024, we still had games pretty much every single month, but the kind of games, maybe the scope of them wasn't as great as prior years, yet it was still some kind of game every month. Is it possible in the year of 2025 it's no longer going to be basically at least one Nintendo published title per month? Could it start to be less? Maybe one every 2 months, or one every 3 months, or maybe 2 every 3 months, something like that. What we see announced by Nintendo for Switch 1 in February will be very telling for how Nintendo may be moving forward with Switch 1. And simply going off what has been rumored from the different credible sources over the last few years for what's still left of Switch 1, there's Metroid Prime 2 and 3 Remastered, Wind Waker HD, maybe also Twilight Princess HD, but I've personally been kind of doubting that one as of late, Fire Emblem Remake, Kirby Planet Robobot. There has been talk of a Pikmin spin-off, but that one's maybe not coming from the most credible of sources. It's up for debate. And then, of course, the new titles of Prime 4 and Legend ZA. Hypothetically, if all of those games were to come out in this year of 2025, I would say that's a decent lineup for Switch 1. It wouldn't be a totally full lineup, there'd be a few months that would be missing things there, but that would be pretty good, and of course I'm sure there could be some other surprises. There is also the playtest program that we saw a few months ago, That's likely going to be some sort of Nintendo Switch Online title, which would be something you can play on Switch 1, I would assume. So that's something else that may come out later this year. And of course, there may be other surprises, and we might see that in a Direct this February. Another rumored title is something F-Zero. Now, personally, I've been thinking that at this point, maybe we're going to wait to see F-Zero on Switch 2. But if there is an F-Zero GX remaster in the works, then maybe we see that in an earlier Direct about Switch 1, because we've already seen that Mario Kart is likely going to be an early title for Switch 2. So if F-Zero, another Nintendo racing game, is around the corner, probably the best way to handle it is either A, wait until after the release of Mario Kart next year or beyond, or B, release it on Switch 1, possibly even before the launch of the Switch 2. Or at least have it separated by a few months. So let's say the Switch 2 is coming out this May with Mario Kart's launch title. Maybe don't put out this F-Zero title until the second half of the year, a few months removed on Switch 1. But if we don't see F-Zero at all in this Direct, then I'm just gonna pretty much completely lean in the direction of F-Zero is just being saved for Switch 2. Now, of course, there is always the possibility that there are still games coming out for Switch 1 in the year of 2026, but if we're already talking about Switch support waning even more so in 25 compared to 2024, then by 2026 there's sure to be even less support, and entries like a new F-Zero at that point will become a real head-scratcher as to why they're being put on Switch 1, and we'll start thinking, well, maybe they should have put it on for Switch 2. Another game I will mention, because there is also a rumor for it, is something having to do with Star Fox. Like F-Zero, I would expect it to be coming to Switch 2 at this point, but maybe they want to do something where it's available for Switch 1 as well so it can reach a larger audience, and if that's the case, we would see it now, and if not, in my opinion, we would definitely be waiting for Star Fox on Switch 2. The kinds of games we might see for Switch 1 in 2026 might be the more mainstream titles that don't necessarily need a next generation version. Maybe something like a Tomodachi Life, for example, or another version of Mario Party or a Mario Sports title. These are considerations I have when I take a look at how things waned with the 3DS lineup. This year of 2025 though, there's still room for some exciting announcements, even brand new titles. So if there's gonna be some, there's a really good chance we'll get an understanding of that in this February Direct. So I expect it to be a very telling presentation for how Nintendo will be handling things moving forward. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.